This is Ben Shapiro. Popular Hollywood movies that are accidentally conservative. Oops, we accidentally made a conservative movie. So one they always like to say is The Dark Knight, so I predict that will be in here. I don't know what else is going to be in here. We're going to find out. Let's take a look.
Why so many of your favorite movies are secretly conservative. Just want to give a shout out to our friends over at Raycon for sponsoring this video. You want the best pair of wireless earbuds on the market? Raycons are the ones.
Hi, I'm John Krasinski, and I'm hosting SNL with Machine.
I don't... let's go on forward. Oopsie doopsie. Okay, here we go.
Why so many movies?
I forgot that there was going to be a massive shill sesh at the beginning of that, you know? Speaking of that, Amazing Atheist is brought to you by... I might actually put an ad there, but anyway, we're going to fucking...
Movies generally are conservative, even though they don't mean to be. Let's start with A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place? Okay. Let me think. What's the justification for this going to be? A Quiet Place. How is that one conservative? Because everybody has to shut up or else they'll be attacked by a monster. I guess the monster is like kind of like you're spending Thanksgiving at your conservative family's house or something, and you know, you got to keep quiet about your political opinions or else they'll pounce on you. But that makes the conservatives out to be the monsters. So maybe it's the other way around. You go to your liberal family's Thanksgiving, and then you can't talk about how Trump is the God Emperor. Otherwise, people are argue with you. So it's like, you got to be quiet. You got to be quiet. Who knows better what it's like to be silent than conservatives? I don't know. I want to see what the fuck.
A Quiet Place was released to overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Positive
John DeFore
reviews,
from
cool.
Hollywood Reporter said, quote, "Scenes of what passes for ordinary life let the screenplay focus on mom and dad's attempts to educate their son and daughter while never letting them forget how dangerous their lives are. One thinks of what we hear from parents of black boys, raising them to be normal and happy, but hyper-vigilant about the way they are perceived by others." That's a pretty wild and deep read right there from the Hollywood Reporter.
This is a black thing.
Wait a minute. Pretty wild and deep read from them. You're about to tell me how apparently this is like a conservative film, so I don't know if you have any room to talk about people reading too deeply into shit, because I'm pretty sure it's just a movie about how, like, monsters kill you if you make a sound.
Isn't it?
The box office on this movie, enormous. It was a very low-budget film. It made $340 million bucks at the box office. Numbers that are not going to be paralleled in the new post-COVID era. For those who haven't seen the movie, there's a family that has to live in silence because there are these mysterious aliens that hunt by sound. So any sound draws the aliens, knowing that even the slightest
doesn't really make
whisper or
sense,
footstep can bring
but
death.
whatever.
Evelyn and Lee, those are the parents, are determined to find a way to protect their kids while desperately searching for a way to fight.
Okay, yeah, that's great. How's it conservative?
Being with child in a horror apocalyptic setting, those reactions miss the actual deeply profound nature of the story. The entire concept of the film is rooted in the risk that is going to take place in the last third of the film when mom actually has the baby. This is about the idea that even when you have a pretty good reason not to have a kid, you should still have a kid. And take life-altering risk in order to have that kid. So unintentionally, the movie's incredibly pro-life. Okay, but that is not the only main...
They have to repopulate the fucking planet, okay? Like, most of humanity in the context of that movie has been wiped the fuck off the face of the earth. And also, like, there's no safe way for her to have... Like, she can't just go to fucking Planned Parenthood and get rid of the fucking kid. She would literally have to, like, do some coat hanger shit. So, like, what are you... What? Context is totally different there. And the whole thing about abortion is not like, we should abort every kid. That's not what pro-life... That's not what the pro-choice fucking position is. It's pro-choice. Meaning, you get to choose whether or not you want to have the kid. That's the whole point. This woman chose to have that kid. Not that she had many good options otherwise, because she's living in a fucking post-apocalypse where there's goddamn sound monsters fucking running around. Okay. But, okay.
mainstream Hollywood film that has received all sorts of critical plaudits and is actually pretty conservative. Hey, how about Soul? So Soul...
That's it? Wait, what? That's it? That's the only reason? Because she has a kid in the movie? She has a kid even though, like, it's dangerous. Pretty conservative, huh? Like, how? How, dog? What? Okay. Soul.
Just came out.
Okay, yeah, I saw
Jamie
Soul.
Foxx Pixar movie. The film is about a New York jazz pianist named Joe.
I saw it.
He suddenly finds himself trapped.
It's all right. It wasn't as good as, like, Up or Wall-E or fucking something like that, but it's all right.
In a strange land between Earth and the afterlife, when he falls down a manhole and apparently dies. In trying to hold back his own death with whatever it takes, he ends up stumbling into the great before in a magical reinterpretation of life.
All right, yeah. I know what happens in the movie. Tell me why it's a conservative movie. All right, here we go.
Final touch. And then they are placed into human bodies. Life exists both before and after life. And before
same argument. It's just like, oh, it's pro-life. It's pro-life because it says that we have a consciousness before. Yeah, it also says toys are conscious, dude. That's the fucking premise of Pixar's toys. Like, you're taking, like, didn't you just at the beginning of this say people were reading too much into shit? This is reading way too much into shit. You're not supposed to watch the movie and literally think, this movie is saying that this is how reality works, that we have this great before, and that's where our soul, like, it doesn't, you're taking it too fucking literal, brah. Okay? This is such a fucking stretch. If you're going to take movies this literally, then you'd have to believe that Pixar is also saying that if you throw your toys away, then you're fucking basically committing genocide because toys are sentient. Toys are conscious because that's the premise of fucking Toy Story, okay? So just because Pixar has as a fucking plot conceit in a kid's film that souls have a personality before they're even born, that doesn't mean that Pixar is saying that that is literally true. It's a fucking plot device for a children's cartoon. Apparently, Edge just won the Royal Rumble. So to Peyton, my assistant, who was so insistent that The Fiend was going to win the Royal Rumble, wrong again. Told you it wasn't going to happen. So anyway.
Before a child is born, there is life.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what else? What else you got?
For those who missed it, the film follows a linguistics professor named Louise Banks. She works with the military to communicate with alien life forms after mysterious spacecraft appear around the world.
So I'll have to actually watch this premise here.
Banks and her crew are racing against time to find a way to communicate with the extraterrestrials.
Aliens, yeah.
It's a really sophisticated and interesting film. Now, during the film, we keep seeing what we think are flashbacks of Louise with her daughter, right? From birth, through a short childhood, and up until her daughter dies at a young age from a fatal disease. And you think that these are flashbacks, that Louise, because she has experienced this pain, she now has the capacity to speak to the aliens in a different way and see the world in a different way. Okay, but that's not actually what happens in the film. Those are flash forwards. That because Louise is communicating with the aliens, and the aliens have the capacity to see into the future, Louise knows throughout the process that she is going to have a child, and that the child is going to die at an early age. And she knows that if she gets together with this other guy working with her, who's played by Jeremy Renner, that she's going to have this kid. This kid is going to live, suffer, and then die. And she decides to go through with it anyway. I have not seen a more pro-life message in any movie because
I mean, I will agree that that's kind of a pro-life message, but to me it just shows how stupid the pro-life position actually is. You know? I mean, I know going into this and conceiving this child that is going to live a short, miserable life and die, yet I'm still going to do that. That makes you a piece of shit. That's not a good thing. That's not a positive message. I haven't seen the movie. Maybe I'm missing some context, but that sounds insane to me. Next, are all these just going to be pro-life things, by the way? Like, here's how I fucking stretch this to be pro-life. Here's how I stretch this to be pro-life. What is this one? Tangerine? Never heard of it. Next. What else we got? Another ad. Okay, cool. Is it just all ad for me? Okay, Lord of the Rings. All right, let's hear it.
Are very conservative. Death of Stalin is very conservative. I can't believe that any of the people who made those films are actually openly conservative. They're not. So why do filmmakers in Hollywood keep making films with conservative themes that contradict
none of those are conservative. But
their actual political ideology? And why do liberals in Hollywood keep responding to the conservative themes? Well, here is the thing.
Because none of them are even conservative themes. You're insane. You're just a lunatic. Here's why. Because you're a fucking lunatic, and none of what you just said made any sense whatsoever. That's why this keeps happening. Because you're just sitting down to a movie about fucking space aliens, and somehow by the end of it, you walk out like, oh, good conservative message. It's like, what? No. Try again. Oh, no. I mean, if you're fucking looking for it, you can find it. Sure, if you're eyes wide open for a fucking conservative message, oh, you're going to find one. Anyway.
When you look at the structure of story is inherently bent toward conservatism. Why? Because
what? I almost just went on and skipped to the next video. I'm so fucking glad I didn't. Please justify that statement to me.
It has to contrast virtue with non-virtue. So
no, it doesn't. There's nothing inherent to the structure of story where it has to compare virtue to non-virtue. There's plenty of stories about characters that are just pieces of shit that go up against other pieces of shit. What about Breaking Bad or Dexter or something like that? You know what I mean?
So start with the Aristotelian idea of the tragic hero. The tragic hero, who's a feature in nearly every piece of content for thousands of years, is a person of virtue who has a tragic flaw. The tragic flaw is exploited and the hero falls. The basic idea there is a couple of things. One, you have a person who actually is virtuous, right? There is a difference between acting virtuously and not acting virtuously. Then the hero has a flaw.
What am I fucking listening to? What is virtue to you, Ben?
His virtue. That flaw leads to his downfall because the world is a fair and just place in which flaws, tragic as they may be, end up condemning and consigning people to bad fates. Right? So
that's not how it works at all. That's not how it works in reality. That's not how it works in most fiction. There's plenty of fucking characters who their fucking character flaw propels them to fucking success and prosperity. Usually until usually eventually the fucking square-jawed hero fucking comes and blows them away. But before that, they accrued all kinds of wealth and power and shit. And in real life, the square-jawed hero never shows up to fucking blow them away.
So there are inherent values in story.
But we're talking about story structure, not real life. Fair enough.
And more colloquially and more commonly, people in the entertainment industry tend to circulate around The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. He wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in which he laid out what he thought was sort of the mythic structure.
Right.
And this is present in nearly every film. The one that most famously it is present in is Star Wars. Right? The entire Star Wars Episode 4 is rooted in the hero's journey. There are a bunch of steps along this way that are inherently conservative. Again,
that's fair enough. That's all reasonably true. Well, you know, the hero's journey, not all fucking, I don't even know that the majority of films conform to the hero's journey, but I mean, like, the hero's journey is a pretty vague story structure, so a lot of stuff at least partially conforms to it. Fair enough.
In order to have heroes, you have to have villains. In order to have heroes and villains, you have to have values. So the idea of a moral...
Yeah, well, you could have, but they could, a movie is not defined, like, conservatives don't have, like, they don't own values. They don't own the concept of having a value. There are liberal values. There are leftist values. There are conservative values. There are values that have nothing to do with the fucking person's political affiliation whatsoever. The fucking very concept of there being values present in a story does not make that story inherently conservative, because values are not inherently conservative, you dumb fuck. Anyway.
Relativism in which there is no right and there is no wrong, and we have to understand every side of the story, and every side of the story inherently is kind of, like, that is boring. Nobody's all that interested in it, and it doesn't work on film. Then there is
what? Moral ambiguity doesn't work on film? Considering different sides of a conflict doesn't work on film? There's about 1 billion contradictions to that fucking premise, dog. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of movies that are just black and white, good guys and bad guys. That does exist. You know, those can be popular. Those do well. But there's also movies where there's lots of shades of gray. you know?
There's the problem in all storytelling of free will. It turns out that the most boring type of story is one in which you know what is going to happen at the end of the story. And in fact,
well, if that were true, then the box office receipts for these Marvel action movies would not be as astronomical as they currently are.
It is going to happen no matter what the hero does because the hero is not in control. One of the key elements of the hero's journey is that the hero has to take control of his own life, right?
So I see a lot of people in the chat saying Boogie Nights is a conservative movie because it's free market capitalism and libertarianism. I don't know. I mean, I feel like really the capitalist enterprise that exploited that dude, I forget what his name is in the movie, Dirk Diggler, I think, something like that. I feel like it leads to a pretty bad place for him overall. I feel like you see a lot of the pitfalls involved in capitalistic enterprise in that film. But I mean, I guess you could fucking, I guess you could just focus on the more romantic elements of the story.
A hero's journey, a hero's arc, in which he goes from somebody who doesn't want to be involved to somebody who not only is thrust into involvement, but becomes the active participant in his own story. That person is going to have to overcome obstacles. If the obstacles are overcome for him, he's not the hero.
How's that conservative?
If the hero
how's any of that conservative? You're you're describing some fucking very generalized statements about story structure, not all of which are even true, and just saying like, well, there's values present in the story, therefore it's a conservative story. It's like, what if they're fucking not conservative values? Like, doesn't it matter more what the values are rather than just that there are values? I don't even... Okay. Well, you're insane, sir. We already knew that, but, it's good to have it cemented. Boogie Nights being pro-Republican is funny. I mean, I can kind of see what they're saying with it. There's kind of an element of capitalistic sort of veneration there, I guess. The Lion King is conservative because they want to keep the hyenas out, just like the Mexicans. I can kind of see that, honestly. Like, that's a more compelling fucking one for me. The Lion King, yeah. Because the whole thing is like, the Pride Land is prosperous. And it's under the control of a fucking king. So you got like a monarch, a wise, benevolent monarch that rules over everybody. And then you have some power-hungry upstart who wants to make lions and hyenas equal and let the underclass hyenas into the fucking nice Pride Lands. And then he kills the king, takes power, does this integration, and that integration destroys society. And then the son of the rightful king comes back, kicks the hyenas back out, and everything is just magically okay again and wonderful. And the plants come back and the animals come back and everything's just instantly restored. So, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see a conservative bent in The Lion King. Its plot is inherently, like, xenophobic and pro-classist. So, yeah, I could see that there. The Lion King has kind of a fucking conservative bent for sure. Yeah, it also revolves around obeying a hierarchy where everyone has their place, Skeptical Jesus pointed out. Yeah. So The Lion King, extraordinarily conservative movie if you really think about it. With a few little nods to liberals, like, the hero being raised by the gay couple of Timon and Pumbaa and shit, doing a little bowing down to some id pole shit, long as that fucking warthog realizes his ass could still be lion chow any fucking second now and is okay with that status quo. Star Wars is literally about a rebel force fighting an authoritarian faction. It being conservative is ludicrous. Yeah, but you got to remember that these guys think they're the new punk rock. You got to remember that conservatives are out there literally fucking like, we're the new punk rock and we're going to stick it to the man. Like, even as they fucking take more and more power for themselves, even when they had the presidency, even when they fucking had the courts, even when everything was going their way, it was still like, we're fucking the downtrodden and we're fucking fighting the powers that be in the deep state and all that, So they're just always perpetually, we're the victims. So they really do think of themselves as the rebels. Even as they are the empire, they fucking cast themselves as the rebels. The Exorcist is super conservative in that it pushes for Catholicism. Like, Catholicism is obviously super conservative as a religion. The Exorcist is probably the most pro-Catholic film that's ever garnered that kind of attention, that kind of influence. The film basically fillets the Catholic Church. So I guess you could say The Exorcist has a conservative lean to it in that regard. The Incredibles, a big deal is made about how The Incredibles is a conservative film. I don't really see it. People say like, oh, it's really modeled after the Ayn Rand philosophy. Like, I with all due respect, I think people who say that have never read fucking Ayn Rand. Because the very idea of a superhero is anti-Ayn Rand. The very idea of having a special ability and using it to help other people is anti-Ayn Rand. The very idea that a guy, that the hero of this film is working at an insurance company and he's actually helping people screw the insurance company over and is fighting for the little guy, that's pretty fucking anti-Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand would be like on the side of the evil guy that runs the insurance company. Ayn Rand would be on the side of the guy that fucking sued the superhero for saving him against his will. So Ayn Rand would be on the fucking side of Syndrome, the great entrepreneur who fucking, built an empire and was a greedy cocksucker and shit. Like, that's the Ayn Rand hero. So I don't fucking get this idea that the Incredibles is some love letter to Ayn Rand. It's not. It's just fucking not. There might be a few, I guess that people get kind of fucking, the reason they think that is because they get suckered in by the fucking message of, well, what about exceptional people feeling the need to dumb themselves down to fit in with the world or whatever the fuck. And people are like, oh, that's a conservative message. I don't think that's a conservative message. I don't think that's a leftist message or a liberal message. I think that's a message that goes out to, just a human message that goes out to fucking people, right?